Hello and welcome to Waterways. I'm your host, Stephen Bull, coming to you this week from beautiful Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. Now we're starting this in Pictou County. And the most important thing to know about Pictou County is it's not pronounced Pictou. That U at the end has nothing to do with how you say it. The only U they want here is you. And then, I don't know, I had an analogy, I lost it. But the second most important thing to know about Pictou County is related to that. And that is a replica of the Hector. And that boat is important because on September 15, 1773, the original Hector sailed into these waters in Pictou County, just past the causeway that was built in recent years. And that held the first wave of Scottish immigrants to New Scotland. About 200 of them came from the Highlands to here, and that began the decades of Scottish immigration. Now, behind me, that replica is built to the exact specifications they found from the line drawings in Holland. And it's a lot of work being done. There's a lot of people working on it. It's going to be sailing as a tour boat in 2025. Well, maybe one day later, because I'm going in to slow things down to show you what it looks like. The restoration started in June of 2020 when they got it out of the water. 2 years into the efforts, though, Fiona hit. It proved to be the costliest weather event to ever hit Atlantic Canada. But through the devastation, the team saw an opportunity and went around clearing trees.
And that basically was just their fee, was take the wood. We had nothing for the crew to do because we had no power here for almost 3 weeks, right, within the town.
That's Vernon Shea. He's the project manager.
A gentleman originally, his ancestors come over in the Hector. He volunteered. He heard it through the news, what we were doing. He volunteered his sawmill, portable sawmill. He come up from Berwick, was here probably 7 days. We have wood here from some of the original homesteads that the settlers lived in when they first come over and built, and the farms and the property stayed within the family for all these years. We had trees here that were over 200 years old that would have been here when the Hector landed, that were knocked down with Fiona.
That's very cool.
It all ties in kind of neat.
I didn't think I'd get goosebumps talking about a pile of wood, but my God, like, that's historic.
It is.
And all this wood is needed because it took a beating over the years as thousands of tourists enjoyed it floating in the bay. Sun and salt water can do a number.
Well, it's the fresh water that killed it.
Ah.
Below the deck was perfect. Or below the water line, you can see that's all original.
My apologies to the ocean.
That's all original oak plank.
Oh, wow.
So all we did was pull the cotton and oakum out and got it, opened up the seams, and then we epoxied in pine splines. So now we have just a totally solid hull. There's no caulking in it whatsoever.
Where is it? So this one is?
That's the one we got from Prince Hendrik Museum in Rotterdam.
So this is the line plan of the original Hector?
A ship like the original Hector.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so where are the other drawn line plans? Is it just this?
That's it.
This was it?
That's it. And a book. But everything was in Dutch feet, and I had to change it from Dutch feet to imperial.
Okay. I was already impressed with how that looked. This, I'm like, yeah, it's that long and like kind of look like this.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All these decks up in through here, that would have been the way they would have been on a whaler or a vessel that would be taking people back and forth. When you come down, that's the main deck. That'll be arranged exactly the same. Now we get into areas where I can start hiding some of the modern equipment so that the passengers won't get to see it. So when we get down in here, we'd have an 8 crew, which would have been original. This will be the engine room. That'll be modern. We're going to have a reception area where we can take corporate sponsors in or weddings or anything at all down into this area. But the forward end of the ship, the 2 forward watertight compartments, will be a display area as per it was in 1773. And here's the...
And are these hand-drawn, Vern?
Yep. I don't know how to do CAD. I'm a dinosaur. Plus, I don't like CAD drawings. There's no soul to them. They're just soulless looking
No.
things.
And what specs? Like the length overall and beam and draft, like it's pretty square.
Yeah, she's about 85 foot. And it doesn't matter if you take it as the keel length or the waterline length or the deck length, they're all within pretty close to each other. Her draft, her full loaded displacement draft will be around 8 feet, and her beam is 22 feet.
The plan is to have it ready to set sail in 2025.
It'll look just simply marvelous.
I'll come back for that.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty marvelous right now.
Yeah. It's getting there, guys.
60 seconds of safety this week, and got my friend Craig Hamilton back. How are you?
Fantastic.
Licensed captain, master instructor. His list is way too long to fit in 60 seconds. Suffice it to say, he's the man. Now, you have taught people on sail, power, small, big. There's way too many variables, single screw, double screw, whatever. Boil it down to one key piece of advice for docking. What do people need to keep in mind when they're approaching a dock?
Learn how to control your boat away from the dock before you try docking. So in other words, keep in mind, don't stay in gear too long. Work the wheel quickly to be able to get the bow around, especially if there's any wind. And if there is wind, know where it's coming from and know how to overcome it by working into the wind.
Yeah, because unlike your car, the wind will affect you. That also works when you're coming to approach a trailer, if you're at the ramp. So same kind of ideas, I'm sure, apply to that, like knowing how to approach the trailer. But now we're on the trailer. What is the one biggest thing that you see that maybe you shouldn't see with trailering?
Oftentimes people forget to tilt the engine up. And as a result, they end up with damage to the skeg, which is the fin underneath the propeller, or the propeller itself could get damaged. So as long as you make sure everything's all tilted up, then before you hit the road, make sure chains are crossed at the trailer hitch. That's a Highway Act rule. Also, check the lights, be sure that they're working, and that you've got the straps properly attached to the back of the boat.
Beautiful. And go slow. If you need, have a checklist on board. Nothing wrong with that. Get everything done right. Surgeons do it. Boaters can do it too.
Outstanding. Good advice.
Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure.
There are a lot of boating adventures that you can do just about anywhere. You know, you can rent a boat, you can go on a boat tour. Sure, if you get to certain places like Nova Scotia, you have options like going out on an old sailboat or whale watching or something like that. But a truly unique experience, one that you can only do here, but not many places, is Tidal Bore Rafting. And that's when you take these and you go slamming through the waves that are made when the Bay of Fundy gets forced up a river. You will get wet on this ride, I'm told, so I'm gonna take the mic off. Wish me luck. It starts out calm enough, a slow putt through the shallow and muddy waters, and then as it deepens, racing along the river. But this is no ordinary waterway. In the middle of Nova Scotia is the Bay of Fundy, home to the world's highest tides. And those tides that can top 16 meters or 50 feet get squeezed to the eastern edge of the bay and forced up the Shubenacadie River. As the saltwater rushes against the current of the freshwater river, it creates waves. And in perfect conditions like today, you can actually see the clear as day start of them. And they build into larger, but generally quite static waves as the currents fight each other. And these inflatables will take you through them. Literally. After a dozen or so passes, the guides let us hop off and float the tides. And on the way back, stopping along the muddy banks for a little overgrown kid playtime. This does not in any way advance the narrative, but I just think this was so cool that Chris got this shot. You can see my watch pop off, and as I slam into the water, I come up in slow-mo saying, "If you got that on camera, my watch flew off." Money. All right, that's it. So I feel as though the legal department would want me to make it abundantly clear that you should not try that by yourself, because it was super fun to be a passenger, but I see you get in trouble real quick if you don't know what you're doing. I will say though, as a passenger, probably one of, if not the most fun experiences I've had on a boat. Unreal. I'm trying not to make a joke about tidal bore rafting not being a bore, but well, here we are. It's getting cold now. Time to dry off. And you will get wet on this ride. Bring a change of clothes. The sailing DNA that began, well before the Hector, but really the whole New Scotland, Nova Scotia thing began 250 years ago. You can feel that to this very day, and no better place than here at the Royal Nova Scotia Yacht Squadron, the oldest yacht club anywhere, not just in Canada, but in the Americas, north or south. In fact, the history is so ridiculous that you walk around in there and the amount of trophies, the photos on the wall. They have a room named after William James Ruy, who was the designer of the Blue Nose. And the Blue Nose 2 mainmast pin rail is around their flagpole. So this place is dripping with history, and here today is the end, well, part of the end, of one of the oldest sailing races anywhere, the Marblehead-to-Halifax. Here now with Graham Roy. Thanks for the time, my friend.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
So you are the Canadian side of this race. There's also the Boston counterpart. So what is it that you do heading up the Halifax side of the Marblehead-to-Halifax race?
Yeah, so I think it's, the Boston Yacht Club is now breathing a sigh of relief because they've sent all the boats our way.
Now it's a you problem.
Now it's a me problem, that's right.
Tell me like sort of the bullet point facts of all this. Like what distance are we talking about? What type and size of boats? How many crew? Like these aren't single hit sailing 20-footers, right?
You're absolutely right. So, to give you some statistics on this year's race, we've got 69 boats that started the race. 500, right around 540 crew in total across all those boats. We have boats from, I believe, 32 feet up to 68 feet in this race. So we've got the Mills 68 Space Monkey, which is just out at the end of the dock here. That boat actually owns the monohull record for this race. And I believe it was 28 hours was the quickest time. And the length of our race is 365 miles. So starts just outside of Marblehead Harbor. Essentially, it's a race to what we call Brazil Rock, just down off of Yarmouth. So kind of the turning mark, so to speak. Our role here really is to be ready to receive all 60, I guess we were 69 boats at the start of the race to our club over the next little while. So it's an interesting dynamic because we've got to be ready 24/7. So we've got about 75 volunteers along with our staff of the club that are here and on hand and ready to help. But once we get them to the finish line, which is about 7 miles out from the club here, get them through customs to their docks, the whole process. So lots happens on our side. And it's a drawn-out process right now.
I know, it's nice because I'm hoping to get a drone in the air maybe, and the light breeze is good for me, but there's not much sail fuel being thrown around right now.
No, there's not. So it's been an interesting race. They all are the same, but a little different. And this one is certainly showing us a little bit different, or what we haven't seen for quite some time.
Right. And, this happens every 2 years other than a global pandemic or
and World
War or two.
That's right.
Otherwise, this has officially been going since 1905, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
But it goes a little before that, is that right?
It does unofficially a little bit before that, where, the old schooners of B, would have a little bit of fun between the boats of Gloucester and Boston Yacht Club and Nova Scotia. But they made it more official in 1905. So this is our 39th official race that we've done, and we've got fantastic ties with the Boston Yacht Club, and it's always, you know, it always changes a little bit, but you know, for 39 races, we've started at Boston Yacht Club just outside of Marblehead Harbor and finished in the approaches of Halifax Harbor here. So there's some things that don't change.
One of the themes of this whole episode and Nova Scotia is like the rich maritime history and the sailing DNA that's sort of tied to everything, whether it's the Blue Nose or the Hector up in Pictou. One of the oldest sailing races in the world, as far as I know.
That's right. It is actually, you know, it is known as the oldest ocean race in the world, and you're standing on the front deck of the oldest yacht club in the Americas. So history is abound.
Well, other than the tidal bore rafting, we got a bit of a sailing theme going in this episode, so let's keep it up. I'm going to show you the oldest commissioned vessel in the Royal Canadian Navy and the only one that is an active naval vessel that is still powered by sail. This is the HMCS Oriole.
This is, in fact, one of one in the Royal Canadian Navy. This is HMCS Oriole, and that's the Navy's sail training vessel. So Oriole was built in 1921 by the Gooderham family, and the Gooderhams owned this ship right up until 1947. During the Second World War, they'd lent it to the Navy for training purposes. And then at the conclusion of the war in 45, the family wasn't sailing the boat very much and recognized the value in lending it to the Navy, and so decided to do that on a more permanent basis. And so for the incredible fee of $1, they sold the ship to the Navy, but there were, of course, conditions. And those conditions were that the Navy maintain the ship and keep it as a sail training vessel. And so it was commissioned into the Navy in 1954, and that makes it the oldest commissioned ship in the Royal Canadian Navy. And today, right from 1954 until today, it is a sail training vessel. You know, this is our main anchor, and it weighs about 215 pounds. Lifting the anchor, moving the anchor out, takes 3 people, right? We'll have one on this side, one on this side, one at the front, and it's up, in, and out. And sometimes we make it, and sometimes we don't. So we'll take 6 people. They'll sit on the deck like this. That line comes through that large block, and they will pull that line in to raise the sail. Because again, remember that sail weighs over 500 pounds. One of the most common questions we get is, why is the wheel on backwards? And, you know, yes, it certainly appears that way, but again, remember this is a sailing vessel. And our wheel is canted this way because it's directly connected to the rudder post. So I can show you that. In this way. So what we have is a very traditional, very standard, and very practical worm drive. So if you turn the wheel there, you'll see what happens in that this arm pivots. And this arm, like I say, is directly connected to the rudder. So as we're turning it, you can see our turn indicator where the rudder might be at any time through that indicator. But it's just a very simple system. So again, just watch your head everywhere you go. 20 people. We get 3 squares a day out of here, so 3 square meals a day, plus soup when we're under operation at 10 o'clock every day. It's a very strong Navy tradition that soup is served at 10 o'clock every day. So this particular item, this is Oriole's original ship bell. We use the ship's bell for christening, and then that person's name gets engraved on the bell for posterity. This little piece right here has some history to it. This is a piece of the mainmast that broke off in one of the Victoria to Maui races, and it's kept as a memento of that particular incident. Last year, we were in St. John, New Brunswick, and there were a group of Navy veterans who came down to see Oriole who had actually sailed on her. And they told us the story about being on board when that mast broke. We took this piece of mast up to show it to them, and they cried when we gave it to them. It was a really special moment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of history in Oriole. Oriole's had a lot of people sail her over the years, and, you know, she grabs you. She grabs your heart, and she grabs your soul. Oriole is to the Navy like the snowbirds are to the Air Force. We are that public-facing outreach element that can really connect with Canadians. People love seeing ships like this. And when we're able, like we are today, to get people on board and give them deck tours, for instance, they get to stand on the teak decks of a 101-year-old sailing vessel. Not a lot of people get to do that.
I'm useless, though, so I'm not going to stick around until she's done. So if I come back when it's done, can I go for a sail?
Yeah, not a problem, but we can use useless people, like there's cleanup and stuff, but...
No, what? Yeah, I'll be right there. I gotta go. Being restored as we speak because it went too long. Thanks, buddy.
My pleasure.
Being around me is a problem.
Not my problem anymore. I don't know what you're going to do with that ending.
All right. So my antique boat friends will, let me see if I get this right. So this would be considered a resto mod.
Absolutely.
It's not a true restoration. This is a modified?
Yeah.
I got something right. Cut. Too bugs out here. Too many bugs.
You look soaked when you walk away, though. It's cool.